Hi, I'm Paul Astles, a learning designer in the STEM faculty.
And I'm Katrina Matthews, also a learning designer in the STEM faculty.
We are going to be talking to you today about how sustainability connects with learning outcomes.
So, in the next 10 to 15 minutes, we're going to be going through the 6 different things you can see on the slide. But towards the end, there is a plenary where there's an opportunity for you to reflect and potentially discuss with others your thoughts and feelings about what we've covered today. So, why are we here today? The purpose of this talk is to support participants in reflecting on sustainability and learning outcomes, and we're hoping that by the end of this talk, you'll have an overview of how sustainability may connect to learning outcomes, and also have a shared understanding of what practical actions can be taken to connect learning outcomes with sustainability. We're going to start by contextualising the term sustainability within education. Sustainability in relation to education is connected to a concept called Education for Sustainable Development, or ESD, and this is connected in turn to the UN's 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. So the SDGs can be thought of in terms of how they relate to the biosphere, society, and the economy. Additionally, they can be reflected on at an individual or personal, local, and/or global level, which can help individuals to consider the goals in their context and in wider contexts. ESD is considered a driver to enabling the achievement of all 17 SDGs, as it aims to provide the knowledge, skills, attitudes and values necessary to address sustainable development challenges. And ESD is defined as the extent to which global citizenship education and education for sustainable development are mainstreamed in national educational policies, curricula, teacher education and student assessment.
The United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, known as UNESCO, state that for people to understand the complex world in which we live, we need to be able to collaborate, speak up and act for positive change as sustainable citizens. UNESCO has identified certain competencies that support us to engage constructively and responsibly to become sustainability change makers. These competencies cover knowledge, skills, values and motivation. 8 key sustainability competencies have been identified which are interrelated and are key to achieving the SDGs. A competency is a set of knowledge, skills and attitudes which help learners to foster a sustainability mindset and deal with complex sustainability challenges. They are explored in more detail within the document Education for Sustainable Development Goals Learning Objectives that you can see on the screen, and the image is linked for those who have the slide deck. UNESCO has argued that education institutions need to respond to the need for sustainability actions by using the competencies to define relevant learning objectives, content and activities to help develop sustainable citizens. These key competencies have been adopted by the QAA and Advanced HE within their guidance and benchmark documents. In the summer of 2022, the Learning Design team set up a sustainability working group. The streams of work are varied, and one of the goals we have is to support colleagues to embed sustainability in a non-tokenistic manner. This led us to creating the tree posters that you can see on the screen. They summarise and visualise the competencies that are explored by UNESCO in their document as seen on the previous slide, and they help to make it easier for educators to get an overview of them. 8 competencies have been split into 3 categories by UNESCO, Advanced HE and QAA, which are divided between the 3 posters. According to QAA, the 8 UNESCO competencies for sustainability are aimed at all learners of all ages worldwide and can be adopted and adapted within higher education through alignment with appropriate learning outcomes. So the competency areas are ways of thinking, which covers systems thinking, anticipatory or future thinking, and critical thinking. Ways of practicing, which covers strategic approaches, integrated problem solving and collaboration, and ways of being, which covers self-awareness, and the normative competency, which is about norms and values. So where do learning outcomes fit in?
In their guidance document, Education for Sustainable Development Guidance, QAA and Advanced HE share a vision of how learning outcomes can connect with the different competency areas outlined by UNESCO. They argue that developing learning outcomes which link to sustainability competencies will help to make education for sustainable development more overt and will support towards achieving the 17 SDGs. So here's an example of how learning outcomes can be used to support the competencies. For example, a student working towards a systems thinking competency will be able to consider how a system's constituent parts interact and operate at different scales and across time, identify the tensions between the 17 SDGs and recognise their interconnections, and think systematically in terms of recognising connections and interactions between factors and understand that actions often have multiple consequences. To help staff think about how they might connect sustainability competencies with learning outcomes, we've created a series of sustainability skills design cards. We included students in the co-design of these cards using the OU's Curriculum Design Student Panel. The skills cards use the 8 UNESCO sustainability competencies. We've adapted some terminology to better meet OU student and colleague needs. The cards help to visualise what it might look like to use the 8 UNESCO competencies in practice. It's noteworthy that students at the OU who provided their input for the development of the cards felt that problem solving, critical thinking and collaboration were the top 3 sustainability skills that they thought would be valuable to include in learning experiences.
The skills cards use a common OU approach to writing learning outcomes known as the Mann model, and provide a supportive method for creating them. And to learn more about the Mann model, you can visit How Do I Write Learning Outcomes following the hyperlink at the bottom of this slide to our internal online toolkit. In terms of how the skills cards work, we thought it would be useful to situate an example for you. And the example we are showing on the screen relates to the self-awareness competency, which is the ability to reflect on one's own role in the local community and global society, and to continually evaluate and further motivate one's actions, and to deal with one's feelings, and to understand what that might look like as a learning outcome or potentially within an activity that a student might undertake. You can see the skills cards, self-awareness 1 and or 2 in the skills card pack 1, which is linked on the slides. And I'm going to show you on the screen an example of what that looks like. And as we click through the next few animations, you'll notice that the image of the skills cards on the bottom right will also have a corresponding coloured box next to it. So you can see how the example of the Mann model learning outcome connects with the visual of the skills card. So in the example of a self-awareness learning outcome or possible outcome, you might have an active verb, recognise, which is on the left-hand side of the skills card image, followed by an object, emotive reactions, which is in the centre of the skills card. And this is concluded with a qualifying phrase, in yourself and or others, which is on the right hand side of the skills card. And by exploring the skills card's content in this way, you can begin to understand how they support you to create learning outcomes that connect with the competency areas. The slide here contains links to each of the skills cards packs, and you can explore these by clicking on the hyperlinks, ways of being, ways of practicing and ways of thinking. Now we are on to the plenary.
As we explored at the beginning of this talk, hopefully now you feel that we've met the purpose and aims. So just to summarise once again, the purpose of this talk was to help participants in reflecting on sustainability within learning outcomes. And the aim was to give an overview of how sustainability may connect to learning outcomes, which we've done by exploring the UNESCO competencies and the guidance given by QAA and Advanced HE. We've also tried to provide a shared understanding of practical actions that can be taken to connect learning outcomes with sustainability by sharing some of the resources that we've created to use within the OU. So now we're going to move on to a reflective question. You might want to pause the video now and think about it, or you can carry on watching, and once you've seen the rest of the video, you can come back and reflect further. but take a moment to think about what you might take forward into your context in order to embed sustainability within learning outcomes.
We're really keen for you to let us know how you have embedded sustainability, and as a way of evidencing the impact of our work, we'd love to hear about your own sustainability journey. So please do contact us about that journey via the email on the screen. Let us know if you'd like to be part of a reflective blog post about it on our OU Learning Design blog page, and you can find the link to that page at the end of the slides. We're just going to talk you through some principles for embedding sustainability in course design that have come from the work undertaken by the Learning Design Sustainability Working Group. These are 3 principles for embedding sustainability in course design. Number 1, focus on identifying non-tokenistic actions that can meaningfully support change, knowledge building, or skills development. And when considering what non-tokenistic action might look like in your context, think about making it meaningful for the students in their studies. So for example, rather than indicating with an icon that something is sustainability related with no context or explanation, it may be more meaningful for a student to better understand how the skills, knowledge and or values being experienced within their learning relate to the material that they are working through, or the industry that they may move into after their studies. This may help them to take those skills forward with them in a meaningful way. Number 2, create opportunities for student input into the resource design. Their ideas, comments and critiques are invaluable. And number 3, recognize that everyone's journey towards meaningful, non-tokenistic actions to embed sustainability will be different.
And if you have any questions at all about anything, or as Paul said earlier, if you want to share your practice, feel free to get in touch with us.
Thank you for watching this short slidecast about how sustainability connects with learning outcomes.